Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast where we help you achieve fluency in English. I'm Thressa.
And I'm Mark. Today we're going to discuss a crucial topic for all English learners: how to think in English and stop translating in your head. This is a game changer for anyone looking to become truly fluent.
Absolutely. Thinking in English can help you speak more naturally and quickly. So let's dive into some practical tips on how to make this transition.
Tip number 1 is to immerse yourself in English as much as possible. This means surrounding yourself with English in your daily life. Listen to English music, watch English movies or TV shows, and read books or articles in English.
Yes, and when you encounter new words or phrases, try to understand their meaning from context instead of translating them into your native language. This helps your brain start to process information directly in English.
Another great tip is to practice thinking in English during everyday activities. For example, when you're making a shopping list, think about the items in English. When you're planning your day, do it in English. The more you practice, the easier it will become.
That's right. Also, talking to yourself in English can be really beneficial. It might feel a bit strange at first, but it's a powerful way to train your brain to think in English. Describe what you're doing, what you're thinking, or how you're feeling.
And don't forget to engage in conversations with others. Join English-speaking clubs or online communities, or even find a language exchange partner. Speaking with others forces you to think in English in real time, which is incredibly effective.
Absolutely. Another tip is to keep a journal in English. Write about your day, your thoughts, and your plans. This not only improves your writing skills, but also helps you practice thinking in English.
Lastly, be patient with yourself. Transitioning to thinking in English won't happen overnight, but with consistent practice, you'll see progress. Celebrate your improvements, no matter how small they might seem.
Great tips, Mark. Now, let's introduce 5 common vocabulary words related to our topic today and use them in simple sentences to help our listeners learn them.
Sounds good. Here are the 5 words. Immerse, to improve your English. Immerse yourself in the language by watching movies and reading books in English. Context. Try to understand new words from the context of the sentences you read. Journal. Keeping a journal in English can help you practice writing and thinking in the language. Engage. Engage in conversations with native speakers to improve your fluency. Be consistent with your practice, and you'll see improvement in your English skills.
Those are great words to add to our vocabulary. Remember, the more you practice, the more natural it will become to think in English.
Exactly. Now let's move on to our grammar lesson for today. We'll be discussing the use of comparative and superlative adjectives, which are crucial for comparing things in English.
Yes, Mark. Comparative adjectives are used to compare two things. For example, you would say, "This book is more interesting than that one." Here, more interesting is the comparative form. If the adjective is short, you often just add at the end, like smarter or taller.
Superlative adjectives, on the other hand, are used to compare more than two things, indicating the highest degree of something. For instance, you might say, "She is the smartest in the class." Here, smartest is the superlative form. For short adjectives, you add est, and for longer ones, you use most before the adjective, like most interesting.
Let's practice with a few examples. Mark, can you give us a sentence using a comparative adjective?
Sure. This exam is easier than the last one. In this sentence, easier is the comparative form of easy.
Great example, Mark. Now for a superlative. Out of all the students, John is the tallest. Here, tallest is the superlative form of tall.
Perfect. Remember, the key is to use comparative adjectives when comparing two things and superlative adjectives when talking about more than two.
Exactly. And always be aware of irregular adjectives like good, better and best, or bad, worse and worst, which don't follow the regular rules.
That's right. Now, let's go back to our tips for thinking in English. Thressa, do you have any personal experiences to share about how you made the transition?
Yes, Mark. When I first started learning English, I used to translate everything in my head. It was frustrating and slow. But then I started immersing myself in English media and practicing thinking in English. Gradually, it became more natural. How about you?
I had a similar experience. At first, I struggled with translating, but joining an English-speaking club and keeping a journal helped me a lot. It's all about consistent practice and patience.
Absolutely. And speaking of practice, let's not forget the importance of feedback. Getting feedback from others can provide valuable insights into your strengths and areas for improvement. It's similar to how a hockey coach reviews game footage to help players improve their performance.
That's a great point, Thressa. Constructive feedback helps you understand what you're doing well and where you need to focus more effort. It's important to be open to feedback and use it as a tool for growth.
And if you don't have someone to give you feedback, you can record yourself speaking and listen to it later. This way, you can identify areas where you can improve, much like how athletes review their own game footage to self-assess.
Another tip is to practice specific language skills. For instance, if you find listening difficult, focus on listening exercises. If speaking is your challenge, engage in more conversations. It's like focusing on different aspects of hockey training, such as skating, shooting, or defense.
Yes, breaking down your practice into specific skills can make the process more manageable and less overwhelming. It also allows you to target your weak areas more effectively.
And let's not forget about the importance of staying motivated. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint. It's important to stay positive and keep pushing forward, just like in a long hockey season.
Absolutely, Mark. Finding ways to keep yourself motivated can make a big difference. This could be through setting personal rewards, joining language learning communities, or even combining your love for hockey with your language practice.
That's a great idea, Thressa. Combining your interests can make learning more enjoyable and relevant. For example, you could read articles or watch documentaries about hockey in English. This way, you're learning the language while engaging with something you love.
And speaking of combining interests, let's share a fun exercise for our listeners. Try to describe a hockey game or your favorite hockey player in English. This will help you practice vocabulary, grammar, and speaking skills in a context you enjoy.
That's a fantastic exercise, Thressa. It's practical and fun. Plus, it helps you practice using English in a real-life context, which is incredibly valuable.
And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you use English, the more natural it will become. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're a natural part of learning, just like in hockey.
Absolutely. Keep practicing, stay confident, and embrace the journey of learning English. If you found this episode helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care and keep practicing your English.
And remember, every word you learn and every conversation you have brings you closer to fluency. Keep it up, and we'll see you next time.
Before we wrap up, let's review the 5 vocabulary words we mentioned earlier. Immerse, deeply involve oneself in an activity. Sentence, to improve your English. Immerse yourself in the language by watching movies and reading books in English. Context, the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea. Sentence, try to understand new words from the context of the sentences you read. Journal, a daily record of news and events of a personal nature. Sentence, keeping a journal in English can help you practice writing and thinking in the language. Engage, participate, or become involved in. Sentence. Engage in conversations with native speakers to improve your fluency. Consistent. Acting or done in the same way over time. Sentence. Be consistent with your practice, and you'll see improvement in your English skills.
Great choices, Thressa. These words will definitely help expand your vocabulary and improve your English skills.
And now for our brief grammar lesson. Let's discuss comparative adjectives. When you're comparing two things, you use the comparative form. For example, you say, living in this city is safer than living in that city, not more safer. The correct form is safer, not more safer.
Exactly. And for superlative adjectives, when comparing more than two things, use the superlative form. For example, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Not most beautifulest. The correct form is most beautiful.
That's right. Keep these rules in mind, and you'll be using comparative and superlative adjectives correctly in no time.
And with that, we truly wrap up our episode for today. Thanks again for joining us. Remember to practice regularly, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're just stepping stones on your path to fluency.
Absolutely. Keep practicing, stay confident, and enjoy the journey of learning English. We'll see you next time.